Financial wellness. Reach out to them for advice at 855 Don Gino. And now back to your hosts, Don Getling and Gino Franti.
And we have Lou Esbin with Esbin Law. He's been with us, going on probably 4 years now on the show.
Yeah.
And always, you start off our year pretty much every year also.
This is my annual review.
Annual review. How about that?
Well, actually, that's a good thing, right? And, that's one of the things that, as you talk to Lou, he's not just, known as a bankruptcy lawyer, but really for annual review of all your finances, because you do so much with corporations and businesses. We'll get into that a little bit more today.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I like that you always share with us some new laws that affect us. There's quadrillion laws that are written every year. Some of us.
That's an official term, by the way, quadrillion. Look it up on Wikipedia.
And with a full-time legislature, they have nothing better to do.
Oh, there you go. But it's nice you bring the ones that really affect us and that are most interesting to all of us. Of course, we can start with the first one. I mean, we're talking about the new minimum wage increase.
Right. So effective
yesterday,
January 1st, minimum wage California goes up to $10 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, look, good and bad, both sides of the coin, right? Pros and cons. I mean, there's a lot. That's really, really controversial. There's so many implications based on this. I mean, so we're yet to see how this affects the economy.
Well, and the studies are all over the place. There are studies that say that raising the minimum wage does not, in the long run, improve the ability of individuals to earn a living. Because what we have seen is that business very quickly adjusts. We know that, for example, in the Rust Belt, when unions were getting all those gains in wages, they in the 60s and 70s and the 80s, they mechanized the assembly lines and and eventually shipped everything offshore. Today, you go to the market, and how many rows of checkouts are
empty,
automated.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm sure that McDonald's and a lot of the other fast foods are beginning to experiment with taking that screen that faces a minimum wage employee, and they're just pushing the button and just turn that screen around. Turn it around. I can do that. And you just,
And you just make it credit only, right? So there's no cash to be exchanged. We're in an electronic digital money world.
That's right.
Pretty easy to do. And in fact, I'll bring up a point to that. Have you walked into a Chase bank lately?
No, I don't bank at Chase.
Well, they say neither do I. I don't like betting against Jamie Dimon, but I'll tell you walk into a Chase and there's only 2 tellers in offices, and the rest are all automated machines. There are ATMs inside.
Right.
That have a little bit different rights than the ATMs that are outside.
Right.
And they say it's for your convenience. And
right.
I highly doubt that. I really
right.
think
it's not for your convenience.
Yeah.
Plus, probably if you use the ATM outside, they charge you for it. No, they'll charge you for using the ATM inside because they have to pay for the heat. Or the air conditioning. They find a reason to charge for everything. But yeah, the increase of minimum wage effective yesterday, $10 an hour. We'll see what effect it has on California economy. I think
that keeps going up from there.
Well, it does, and here's the thing: is that as a bankruptcy counsel and dealing with the bankruptcy amendments that were made back in 2005, where they introduced the median income as a measure of whether or not you're qualifying for Chapter 7 or what type of Chapter 13 plan you're qualifying for, the median income in California has gone down every year for the last 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? That's a little tidbit we didn't know.
Yeah, we haven't used that on our show yet.
No.
Pearls of wisdom from Lou Esbin with Esbin Law.
Median income has gone down, right? So the size of packages have gotten smaller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prices have remained relatively constant, but the packages have gotten smaller. So effectively you have inflation.
Right.
They've just done it a different way.
Sure.
Right.
And then you guys, the Fed increased interest rates.
Yep.
So I think we can talk about it now, or we can talk about it later. But it's all fitted together. I don't think it's a good idea to raise minimum wage. I think it will be a downside to the economy. The problem is
one of the things is for sure it makes it more difficult to bring employers from somewhere else and bring them into California.
Well, look. Minimum wage started in response to coming out of World War II, when the United States was the only industrialized country in the world, right? Because we had destroyed every other industrialized society, and so we were where everything was made. And so the demand for labor was very high, and union labor came on, and wages went up, and they set minimum wages back then. Well, we're not the industrialized society we once were. We're a service-based economy.
Right.
100%.
And a service-based economy runs on a much more narrow margin, so that if you go from $9 to $10 an hour, that's more than a 10% increase per hour. That can be a business margin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, your margins are tight. And I mean, like you said, we don't know how that's going to play. It all sounds good. I mean, it's really easy for everybody to go, yay, I'm gonna make more money per hour. Those of us who are not making enough, that might help. But there's so many other ramifications that they don't understand, as you do, because you're basically a business law attorney, how other factors, we see it all the time in all the reports we see.
Yeah,
One
I mean-
report does not make a trend.
No, and I think you touched on one of the most important things that not a lot of people have is effective inflation. I think we've done one of the most brilliant ways of disguising inflation ever done on the planet.
Oh,
is
George Orwell would be proud.
yeah. I mean, it's, and I coming from Argentina, I mean, I know all about inflation. There was a thing saying how to teach your kids about inflation, and it showed a picture of an iPhone and a picture of a car. And in 2001, the iPhone was 33,000 pesos, and now the car, or vice versa, the car was 33,000 pesos. Now you get an iPhone for the same amount of money. And that's what it is in the rest of the world. So now here we're just hiding it and cheating it and making things smaller. I mean, and just effectively today, in fact, one of our people here in the office drink these very small cans of soda. And I always walk around and I go, where did they get that little like 6 or 7 ounce can of soda? And I don't doubt that the price is that different than what a 12-ounce can was not too long ago.
Well, you go to $4, and I used to get
$4.
I used to get a yogurt parfait there.
I've never heard it called that.
I mean, neither. That was good.
Starbucks, $4. Yeah.
It will forever be $4 on our
I'm
show.
sorry, I wasn't referring to the same establishment.
Oh, okay.
But you go,
We don't hide much here.
Yeah.
You go into
funny.
$4, and I would get a yogurt parfait for $3.75, and it was in an 8-ounce cup, full. Right now, for the same $3.75, it comes in a 4-ounce cup.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
It's like, wow, you have to buy two, right?
50%, 500% inflation.
No,
Nice.
that's 100% because you have to buy two
Right.
Right.
to get the same amount of
That's
nutrients.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean that's and the little cans of cola, and it goes on and on and on. You don't get a pound of coffee anymore. You get 10 ounce. You get 12 ounces of coffee.
Yeah. So I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant way to hide inflation. I think it's interesting to see how we go on because, it's going to be interesting when you have to buy a 1-ounce cup of parfait. How does that work? Maybe we all start losing weight.
I personally I don't buy them anymore.
Yeah.
I make my own before I come here.
Yeah.
The other thing that's coming up is the Fair Days Pay Act.
Mm-hmm.
California employers have been under attack by the labor board and the labor commissioners for years, and they're just not stopping. And because they think that we are just all ripping off our employees.
Of course.
And they look at the cleaning industry, and there's a lot of abuses there. But so what happens is that a small segment of the economy, everyone else gets punished because of a very small segment. Instead of enforcing the laws against that small segment, they just make the laws more onerous on the rest of us. So now what they're saying is that if an employer is found guilty or liable for wage and claim violations, the labor commissioner has the right to lien the property of the employer.
Oh, dude.
Also, that the employer cannot go out of business and restart another business. As we discussed, what impact will that have on bankruptcies? Because bankruptcy laws are federal. They preempt state laws. You can't have a state law that impacts a federal law. So, this is just more confusion that leads to more litigation, that
Of course.
leads to more
More money.
interpretation, and just nonsense. From my perspective, if the owner-operator of a business, if they're going to assess liability against the owner-operator of the business rather than just a corporation, then we're going to have issues in the bankruptcy court about, is that a violation of law? Is that non-dischargeable? Just all these issues that, come flowing into my crazy head that I'll now have to counsel clients on, both my corporate clients that I have, but as well, clients that you may refer me on the wage and hour claims. And as we discussed, the wage and hour claims are now the hot area of litigation. It's replaced workers' comp because workers' comp has gotten so overregulated and the workers' comp fund is not paying like they used to. So now those lawyers that were chasing down workers' comp claims are now going to the same employees and saying, oh, we can do a wage and hour claim. Have you not punched your clock out for your 10-minute break? Have you not punched your clock for your lunch break? And the presumption is that the employer is wrong. So when an wage and hour claim is filed against an employer, they have to show all the time cards and that they've dotted their I's and they've crossed their T's. And they're basically taking away from those of us who like to be good employers. We now have to be, overseers.
As always. All right. Hopefully you're enjoying the segment with Mr. Lou Esbin with Esbin Law. He's not just a bankruptcy attorney, he's a business law attorney and so much more. And we're going to go over some of that. Maybe some of you spent a little bit too much money over the holidays. We're going to give you some options of how to look at that and who to talk to about that when we return to the Don Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. We'll be right back.